The year was 1867. The smoke of the Civil War still clung to America's skies, and Missouri bore scars deeper than most. Wooden fences still charred from raiders, farms stood half empty, and men limped through the streets missing limbs, hope, or both. Into this land of weary souls came a boy, barely 14, with eyes the color of river glass and a face so pure it seemed untouched by war. His name was Eli Thompson. He arrived in the little town of Cedar Hollow with only a frayed satchel, dusty boots, and silence as his companion. To the townsfolk, he was just another orphan wandering the ruins of a broken country. His innocent face stirred pity. Women whispered, men nodded solemnly, and children watched with curiosity. But Eli was no ordinary boy. Behind his calm eyes lived shadows. He had seen things no child should ever see, carried burdens too heavy for his small frame. And though the town saw only gentleness, Eli carried secrets that could shatter their fragile peace. That evening, as the sun bled across the Missouri sky, Eli stood on Main Street, staring at the humble homes, the smoke rising from chimneys, and the faint sound of church bells. For the first time in weeks, he felt the warmth of a community. But deep inside, he knew, if the truth of who he was ever came out, the same people who pitied him might cast him out forever. Cedar Hollow's general store was the heart of town. Its shelves carried flour, tobacco, nails, and gossip in equal measure. Behind the counter stood Mr. Grady, a stout man with a weathered beard and a surprisingly soft heart. When Eli wandered inside that morning, stomach growling loud enough to startle the cats curled by the door, Mr. Grady took notice. "Hungry, boy?" he asked, narrowing his eyes. Eli nodded shyly, ashamed. Without another word, Mr. Grady sliced off a piece of bread, handed it to him, and gestured toward a stool. "Eat. No charge." Eli devoured it with quiet gratitude, his innocent face glowing with thanks. Mr. Grady studied him carefully. "Where's your kin?" he asked. "They're gone," Eli replied, his voice barely above a whisper. Mr. Grady sighed. He had seen too many orphans left behind by the war. "You've got an honest look about you. Stay in the back tonight if you need rest." That kindness pierced Eli's heart like a knife. Honest? If only the man knew the truth, the things Eli had done, the blood his hands had once helped spill. He accepted the kindness, but carried shame with every bite. That night, lying on a straw mattress in the store's back room, Eli stared at the ceiling beams. His innocent face might have fooled Mr. Grady, but Eli knew he was living a lie. Across the street lived Clara Whitmore, a woman in her early 30s whose grief was stitched into every line of her face. Her husband, Captain Whitmore, had died in the war, leaving her to raise her daughter, Anna, alone. Clara noticed Eli wandering, saw the way he clutched his satchel as if it were his only lifeline. One evening, she invited him over. "You look thin, child. Come eat with us." Her home was modest but warm. The smell of cornbread filled the air. Anna, with her chestnut braids and curious eyes, studied Eli with fascination. "You can sit by me," she said with a smile. At the dinner table, Clara asked gentle questions. "Where are you from? What work have you done?" Eli gave careful, half-true answers. He spoke of rivers and fields, but avoided names and places. Anna giggled when Eli told a small joke about chasing a stubborn mule, and for a moment, laughter filled the widow's house again. Clara watched the two children with a bittersweet smile. But as Eli left that night, guilt clawed at him. Clara had offered him kindness. Anna had offered him trust, yet both were built on the false innocence of his face. They did not know the shadows he carried. Night after night, Eli's dreams betrayed him. He would jolt awake, drenched in sweat, hearing phantom gunfire and men screaming. Sometimes he dreamed of flames devouring wooden barns. Sometimes he dreamed of carrying messages through the woods, pursued by soldiers on horseback. To the townsfolk, he was just a quiet, polite boy. But inside, he was haunted by memories of being forced into service during the war. He had been used as a messenger, a spy, sometimes even a saboteur. He had not chosen it, but survival had demanded it. In Missouri, whispers still lingered about raiding bands, deserters, and child lookouts. Eli feared one day someone would recognize him. He avoided questions, avoided crowds, and clutched his satchel as though it contained his very soul. On the outside, his innocent face drew sympathy. But at night, when no one could see, he trembled in shame and fear, praying no one would ever uncover his past. Sheriff Jonathan Walker was a tall man with sharp eyes, a veteran who had lost 2 brothers in the war. He trusted few and watched newcomers with suspicion. When he first saw Eli, he leaned against a post and studied him quietly. "There's something about that boy," he muttered to his deputy. "Too quiet, too clean for a drifter." The sheriff had seen men lie with smiles, seen deserters hide behind innocent faces. Eli's politeness might fool others, but Walker's gut told him there was more. Still, Eli never caused trouble. He helped at the store, carried water for Clara, and played with Anna. The townsfolk began to warm to him, but Sheriff Walker wasn't convinced. He told himself he'd keep an eye on the boy, and Eli, though he didn't know it yet, felt the weight of those watchful eyes every step he took. Despite Eli's guarded silence, Anna's warmth melted some of his defenses. She was curious, adventurous, and spoke freely where he could not. Together they explored the riverbanks, skipping stones across the water, chasing fireflies at dusk, and talking about dreams. "You'll like it here," Anna said one day. "Cedar Hollow is small, but it's safe." Safe. The word lodged in Eli's throat. He wanted to believe it. Anna often asked about his family. Each time his face tightened. "They're gone," he would whisper. She sensed his pain and never pressed too hard, but she longed to understand him. For Eli, her friendship was like sunlight breaking through clouds. But the brighter the bond grew, the more he feared what would happen if she ever learned the truth behind his innocent face. Though the war was over, Cedar Hollow carried its ghosts. Men who had worn blue coats refused to shake hands with those who had once worn gray. Farmers quarreled in meetings, accusing neighbors of betrayal. Even church sermons carried undertones of division. Clara often told Anna, "The war's over, but peace hasn't come to every heart." Eli listened in silence, torn inside, for he knew both sides too well. He had been forced to carry messages for Confederate raiders, then later betrayed them to Union soldiers out of desperation. He was, in truth, both and neither. Every heated argument in town made his chest tighten. If they discovered his past, if they saw him not as an innocent boy, but as someone who had aided their enemies, they might not just reject him, they might destroy him. One evening, while Eli fetched water from the well, Anna's curiosity got the better of her. His satchel, worn and patched, sat by the wall of Clara's house. She hesitated, then opened it. Inside, beneath scraps of cloth and an old piece of bread, she found a small, leather-bound journal. Its pages were filled with strange markings, codes and symbols she didn't understand. And tucked in the back was a button, gray, smooth, with a star carved into it. A Confederate soldier's button. Anna gasped softly. She quickly returned everything before Eli came back, but her heart raced. Why would Eli carry such a thing? What did it mean? She said nothing, but that night she stared at him differently. Her trust wavered, and for the first time, doubt shadowed their friendship. One summer morning, a scarred rider appeared on the edge of Cedar Hollow. His left cheek was carved by an old wound, his eyes sharp and searching. He asked questions in the tavern. "Anyone seen a boy?" he said. "Blue eyes, quiet, carries a satchel." The townsfolk gave vague answers, but word traveled quickly. When Eli saw the man from a distance, his heart nearly stopped. He ducked behind buildings, avoiding the man's gaze. Memories flooded back, the man's voice shouting orders, his hand striking him when he faltered. Clara noticed Eli's fear but said nothing. She thought it might just be the boy's painful memories, but Eli knew better. That scarred stranger wasn't just anyone. He was a ghost from Eli's darkest days. Anna could no longer contain her unease. One evening, she confronted Eli. "I saw what you keep in your satchel," she said, her voice trembling. "That button, it's Confederate. Why do you have it? Who are you really?" Eli froze, his innocent mask slipping for the first time. His face paled, his hands shook. "Please," he whispered, "don't tell anyone." Anna's heart pounded. She wanted to trust him, but fear coiled inside her. "If you're hiding something dangerous, I need to know." Eli's eyes filled with tears. "It's not what you think," he said, his voice cracking. "I didn't choose any of it." Anna didn't press further, but she walked away that night with her trust shaken. Eli's innocent face still looked the same, but she now knew darkness lurked behind it. Anna's questions weighed heavily on Eli. He could no longer bear her suspicious eyes, the quiet distance growing between them. One evening, under the pale light of the moon by the riverbank, he finally spoke. "I was taken," he confessed, his voice trembling. "When I was younger, raiders found me. They called me useful. I carried messages, hid supplies. Sometimes I was told to light fires." Anna's eyes widened. "You lit fires?" Eli nodded, shame flooding his face. "Once, I burned a barn. I didn't want to. They said they'd kill me if I didn't. Union soldiers died that night. I still hear their screams in my dreams." Tears welled in Anna's eyes. She saw the boy before her, gentle, broken, still trembling, but she also saw the weight of what he'd done. "They made me a child soldier," Eli whispered. "I wasn't innocent. Not really, but I was only trying to live." Anna touched his hand gently. For the first time, she realized the innocent face she admired hid scars deeper than her own father's grave could have taught her. Anna walked home in silence, her heart heavy with Eli's confession. Her mind raced. Should she tell her mother? Should she warn Sheriff Walker? The town hated traitors, and Eli's truth would condemn him. That night, as she lay in bed, she remembered the laughter they had shared by the river, the kindness he showed to her mother, and the haunted look in his eyes when he spoke of the war. He wasn't just guilty, he was wounded. In the morning, she approached him again. "Eli, the war's over. You're just a boy now. You can choose to be different." "But they won't see it that way," he replied bitterly. "To them, I'll always be the boy who burned their barns." Anna hesitated. "Then let me keep your secret. But promise me one thing. Don't ever go back to that darkness. Be the Eli I know." Her compassion gave him a fragile hope. Yet Eli wondered if even Anna's loyalty could shield him forever. The scarred rider returned to Cedar Hollow, this time more determined. He entered the saloon and slammed his fist on the counter. "I'm looking for the boy." Blue eyes, about this high. Sheriff Walker, already suspicious of Eli, approached the man. "And why do you seek him?" "He betrayed us," the man growled. "Led Union soldiers right to our camp. Got good men killed. He hides behind his innocent face, but I'll see him pay." Word spread quickly through town. Eli's heart sank when he overheard. It was true. He had betrayed the raiders after they beat him one night, slipping away to guide Union troops to their hideout. He had hoped it would end his nightmare. Instead, it only left more blood on his conscience. That evening, he hid behind Clara's house, trembling. The past he tried to bury had come riding straight into Missouri, demanding justice. Sheriff Walker summoned Eli to stand before the townsfolk in the old meeting hall. The scarred man stood at one side, townspeople crowded around, Clara and Anna by the other. "This boy," the sheriff announced, "is accused of aiding raiders during the war. Yet some say he also turned against them. What is the truth, Eli?" Eli lowered his eyes. The crowd murmured, some glaring, some pitying. Clara gripped Anna's hand tightly. With trembling lips, Eli whispered, "It's both. I carried their messages. I burned barns. But I also led soldiers to stop them. I was trying to live." Gasps filled the hall. One farmer shouted, "Traitor!" Another muttered, "Just a child." Sheriff Walker's sharp eyes studied Eli's innocent face, the mask now shattered. "We must decide whether this boy deserves our mercy or our punishment." The room buzzed with anger and doubt. The war's ghost had returned, embodied in the face of a child. Eli raised his head, tears streaming down his cheeks. His voice shook, but it rang with raw honesty. "I never wanted to hurt anyone. I was taken. They told me if I disobeyed, I'd die. Every night I see the fire, the soldiers, the blood. I wish I could change it, but I can't." The room grew quiet. Even the scarred man's fury dimmed for a moment. "I was a boy in a world that forced boys into men's wars," Eli continued. "If you hate me, I understand. If you cast me out, I'll go. But know this, I've never stopped regretting. Not one day." Silence hung heavy. For the first time, the townsfolk saw not just an innocent face, nor just a dark past, but a child drowning in guilt, begging for a chance to be seen as more than his mistakes. The hall erupted into argument. "He's a traitor, send him away," one man roared. "He's just a boy." "The war used him," Clara cried. Others muttered about fairness, about wounds that never healed. Sheriff Walker let them argue, but saw how deep the division ran. Missouri had never healed from the war, and Eli's presence tore at those wounds again. Clara stepped forward.